This is the Crush Crowdfunding Podcast, the #1 place for people who want to launch on Kickstarter and Indiegogo. My name is Nalin, and I invite you to join me for tips, hacks, and insights to get you launched and fully funded. Hey everyone, welcome to another session of the Crush Crowdfunding Podcast. I'm really excited to have you here today and to really talk to you about crowdfunding and how you can absolutely crush your goal on Kickstarter and absolutely crush your goal on Indiegogo. Hey, I wanted to talk some more about social media today because a lot of people have been asking me about it. So I know that we've talked about how social media isn't the main driving force behind funding and that emails are. However, social media is still so important in building up the different aspects of your brand and your company and your product. So let's dive in a little bit. It is really important to kind of cultivate that social media presence so that you have places where you could have one-on-one relationships and also just that reach for new audiences. The cool thing with social media is that although it doesn't drive like ultimate dollars and conversions right away, there's just kind of different things you can do to kind of keep traction for your campaign, to keep traction for your launch going with social media itself. And so let's first talk about the different channels for social media. So there is a lot of channels for it, and there's a lot of things you can do on each different channels. There are channels that come, there's channels that go too. So for example, TikTok recently really blew up in at least the US, right? It really blew up. But then most recently, the US government decided that they didn't want TikTok to be around anymore. And so they blocked new downloads or new updates of TikTok. So this is as of like mid-October 2020. It might be different moving forward. Yeah. And there's always media that comes and goes. Like Vine. Vine was really big back in, 2000 something. Vine was really big. It was like this little platform where you can make short video clips and things like that. But then that kind of just fizzed out. So there's a lot of social media platforms that come and go. Right now, social media platforms, that are common to a lot of people include things like Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, Reddit. There's a few others out there that people are on, but those are kind of like the key ones that are really Instagram. How did I forget Instagram? Those are the key ones that are around. And the thing with social media platforms is that each platform has its own language, has its own kind of type of conversation, has its own lingo, has its own specific way to interact, way to speak, and kind of what to post to, because the types of people who gravitate towards these different platforms are very different. One book that I would recommend reading, if this is like of interest to you, it's a little outdated now, but Gary Vaynerchuk writes a book called Jab, 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 Right Hook. I actually have it on my shelf behind me, but his book Jab, 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 Right Hook is really just about the different kind of channels of social media, the different types of content that need to go onto each type. And he kind of goes through to explain what type of language and lingo and what works and what doesn't work on each of these platforms. And he actually goes through examples too. They're kind of like screenshots of things that other people have done before, and he has a commentary on it. He's not involved in any of these companies, but he just sees things online and screenshots it and makes a commentary on it. So so that's why the items in the book are actually pretty outdated already, because it's been published like early 2010 or 2015 or something like that. However, the idea behind the book is that every platform is different, right? Every platform is different, and you need to understand what type of content works for your platform. So with that said, figure out firstly, what do you want to be on? Like, sure, you can make a handle on every single social media platform. That's totally fine, because in the future, if you grow to be a really big company, you grow to be a really big brand, you want to have presence everywhere. And you can hire people who specialize in Pinterest, you can hire people who specialize in Instagram. But right now, as like an early stage startup, as a startup who's kind of trying to bring a new idea, a new product to market, just kind of get a handle everywhere and figure out what feels right for you. what feels right for you, and also what feels right for your audience. Where is your audience hanging out? So for example, if I'm creating a product for a woman who's probably in their like high 30s, 40s, 50s, and I want to crowdfund for that, the places I will be is probably going to be Facebook and Pinterest, for example, because those are kind of the key demographics for that type of product. If I'm looking to create a product for like a super tech savvy urban Gen Zer who is kind of up and coming in the world and up and coming in spending, I'll probably be looking at places like Reddit or Instagram or whatever new social media platform it was. TikTok was great for accessing this crowd. However, TikTok again was banned. So make sure just to look at what firstly your product is and where your audience hangs out, and also what you're comfortable with. Those three things kind of sometimes don't align, so there are ways to go around it too. But mostly audience and product is what's going to really determine where you can gain traction. Because I'm actually a firm believer that a little bit of every audience is everywhere, but to really, really kind of skyrocket your reach and really skyrocket your growth is to really understand the platform, really kind of do things to make that platform work. Because a lot of the time people kind of force things onto different platforms and it kind of feels fake. Yeah, like in that same book that I was talking about, Gary Vaynerchuk, he'll actually give examples of people who did things really, really poorly. So for example, someone who shares click here on this picture type of image onto Twitter doesn't really work because Twitter doesn't do clickable images, for example. So there's little things like that happen throughout all social media. Yeah. But you just have to figure out what works for you, what works for your audience, what works for your product. So when it comes to social, you can go deep into each individual platform and really have a full conversation about it. But the point of this is pretty much, how do you use social and how do you kind of make social work for you and your product and your launch, especially for crowdfunding, especially for a new product. So with social media, there's two things you can do that really kind of is impactful for your launch. One is to get reach. Social media is great for reach because the platforms themselves work to onboard new people. They work to onboard a lot of new people, and they work to keep a lot of people engaged and keep a lot of people back onto their actual platform. I was reading this one book the other day another day meaning like months ago. There's a book called Indistractable. And the author of this book actually worked with big companies like Facebook and Instagram just to figure out how to get people addicted, how to keep people so immersed in these platforms and these social media channels that he figured, wow, this is getting to be kind of like a crisis, right? People are really, really addicted to these things. And so he did a 180 flip. And then he wrote this book called Indistractable to help people figure out ways to stay away from these social media platforms. But the essence of it is that these platforms are designed to keep people on and designed to just onboard new people in various ways. So why is this great for you? Why is this great for your product, your company, your new idea, your new crowdfunded product? Why is it great? It's great because you can get reach. You can get a lot of reach through these social media platforms by the way that things are categorized. So for example, if you're looking at Instagram, you can be a product that is interested in creating something. You can be a company that's interested in creating something for people who love hiking. Right? If people love hiking, then they're going to look at hashtags, which are ways to categorize things on the social media platform. They're going to look for hashtags like hashtag outdoors, hashtag hiking, hashtag backpacking, hashtag one backpack travel, hashtag. There's all these things that they can hashtag and kind of dive into this hashtag because other people are categorizing their pictures and their content in that way too. So for someone who's a newbie, who's coming with a product that is kind of geared towards hiking, you can just go and click on one of these hashtags or search one of these hashtags and start making conversations, start liking those photos, start commenting on those photos, start asking questions on those photos. You can even upload your own photos and categorize the photos and the content in that same way so that other people can find your content too. So when someone from across the world wants to look up something that's new and exciting and is about hiking, they can just search hashtag hiking, and your image, your video, whatever you want to put up as content on the platform will pop up. So that's really one way to really approach social media, right? It's great for reach. This happens throughout pretty much every single type of social media platform, and it's done in different ways. Twitter uses hashtag too. Facebook for like pages, they use hashtags and kind of keywords to categorize different things. But you can also find reach on Facebook by just adding random people and going into groups and finding people who are kind of like-minded and adding them there, or kind of making conversations with them there. For Pinterest, is a huge search channel for things that are very visual. So there's every single platform has a way for you to really get that reach, that far, far reach, where you can get in touch with other people who are interested in that same topic, other brands who are interested in that same topic, other people who are interested in that same topic, and basically anyone else who wants to do something similar or is looking for that particular thing. You can get in touch with them and get reach in that way, get more follows, get more engagement, more likes, and get more comments and questions, things like that. The other thing that social is really, really good for is just relationship building, is kind of that one-on-one conversation that you can have with people who follow you, who like your content, who really kind of support you. And what that looks like is that a lot of these social platforms, Reddit, Twitter, Instagram, like all these social platforms have a way for you to have one-on-one conversations. One-on-one conversations being like, you can add them, you can private message them. There's all these ways that you can do that one-on-one conversation. And so with that said, you can actually go through and get this reach with new people interested in hiking, new people interested in whatever you want to create, want to launch. And once someone likes it, likes your product, likes your post, likes your content, you can just go through and see who it was that actually liked your content and click to direct message them, click to private message them, anything that you want to do, and just start saying, hey, thank you so much for the like. I see you like the content. Like, what about the content? What about the content resonated with you? Is this like, what do you like about hiking? Where did you last hike to? What kind of products do you use when you hike? What kind of products do you need when you hike? So like, start making these conversations with people who like your content, because that's one of the best ways to just form that relationship in order to take them to another level with the brand itself. I understand that this is something that will take a lot of time. Absolutely. It'll take a ton of time. It will not be something that you can do for 5 minutes, right? It's something that you do consistently for a long time with a lot of people, so that you can amass a huge network of followers who have that one-on-one relationship with you. Because when you think about marketing and you think about buying and selling stuff, the most important thing is relationships. Yeah, you have to form those relationships with people, so that you want to be able to earn people's trust by forming these relationships. And in the long run, when people think about products, when people think about brands, when people think about things they want to buy, when things they want to back, it's that trust factor and that credibility factor that really come into play. Especially true with a Kickstarter and an Indiegogo project too, because it's a product that isn't made yet. It's a product that is, a really high functioning prototype. It's a product that's beautiful. It's a product that doesn't have like a fully fleshed out supply chain or manufacturing process yet. It's a product that people have to really trust and believe in order to really contribute that fund to make the product actually come to life. And so having these one-on-one conversations and one-on-one relationship with people will really enable you to really build that trust with people in the long run. It's going to take a long time, especially if you want to have a really large audience going into your crowdfunding campaign, especially if you want to have a really large raise. If you're looking for $100,000, $500,000, $1 million, that's going to be a lot of people for you to start having conversations with and knowing and getting to know. And it's going to be hard, but it's really worth it, because at the end of the day, those one-on-one relationships are the ones that are going to convert into backers. They're going to be the one that converts into just supportive, loyal fans in the long run because you've had that conversation. Think about it. If it's much easier to kind of hate a stranger. It's much easier to distrust a stranger than someone that you know and you have conversations with and you see all the time and you converse with and you just have meaningful chats and talk with. And so that's kind of what you want to do as a creator too. You want to, as a beginner, as someone who's starting a new product and a new idea from the ground up, that's what you want to do. You want to really make those relationships, and it's going to take a long time. I myself do that in my own business, and it takes a long time, right? I say hello to everyone who adds me on all platforms. I ask questions. I ask what they're doing, what they're up to, what they're interested in. I make sure to ask all these things just because it takes a lot to earn trust, and you want to earn that trust. So when it comes to social, what happens with social? Like, how does social help? One of the ways that social media really, really helps is that you can really leverage your fans and leverage the people who are following you to kind of make action. Yeah. One of the things that are really kind of exciting during a crowdfunding campaign is that you can do things like social stretch goals. You're going to get people to share, get people to like a certain post, get people to like a certain page, follow you on Twitter, get people to share a certain image or something through all their social, get people to upload a new profile picture, things like that. And so that's the exciting thing about social. You can get additional reach through that channel, because every single person typically has 500, maybe 1,000 friends on that one social media platform. If you ask one person, you get one person to share about you, if you get one person to talk about you on one platform, that's a huge amount of reach that your product, your idea, your thing that you're working on could get. If it's one person on 5 platforms and they have 500 people on each platform who are friends with them, who are following what they say, that's a lot of people too. And these shares, these kind of reach that you can get through your fans and your audience is available everywhere. There's share buttons on LinkedIn. There's share buttons on Reddit. There's share buttons on Twitter. There's share buttons everywhere. You can even get people to share via email. There's a lot of ways to get people to share, right? There's a lot of opportunity for that. But the main kind of thing that it comes down to is creating valuable content that they're excited about and and giving them a call to action. Giving them a call to action. A lot of people kind of go through life just consuming, right? People consume social media. People go through and kind of scroll through social media and kind of see what they like and kind of have their own conversations in their head about what they think about the posts, this content posts. People sometimes even comment, sometimes people even like, but most of the time, if you give people a call to action, they will follow it. So for example, with ads, that's why ads work, right? That's why call to actions for landing pages are so important. That's why call to actions for advertising is so important. Advertising, especially online, with call to actions like sign up now or go here to buy, right? All these call to actions are there because it gets people to act. It calls people to action. People read through it, they think about it in their heads, and they're like, oh, here's what I do. Here's the next step for me to go through. On landing pages, if they go to a landing page of a new product that is new and exciting, and they go to product page that says add to cart, things like that, the call to action gets people to automatically do the next thing. So if you want your content to be shared, if you want your items to be seen by more people, and you want your audience to really share your stuff, make sure to have that call to action. I'm not saying to have the call to action to share every single time, because that would honestly get really, really annoying. But have different call to actions. Like, hey, one is like, hey, like this post if you enjoy the content, right? One can be leave a comment on what questions you have. Another call to action can be share this one post to your friends because we'd love to see, a lot of shares, because we're looking to get 5 shares today as our company goal, right? One can be, hey, save this post for later, right? There's all these different things that you can do to get people to act. And most of the time it's just asking people do that, having that call to action for people.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Crush Crowdfunding podcast. If you enjoyed this episode or found it helpful in any way, be sure to leave a review so that other people will have an easier time finding this crowdfunding content. I hope that this podcast was helpful in your crowdfunding journey, and I can't wait for you to go out and crush it. Thanks for listening to the Crush Crowdfunding podcast at crushcrowdfunding.com. Tune in the same time next week for more ways to crush your launch.